There, it fucking worked. God damn. So stupid. All right, let me invite the professor. Invite you. Think it would be easy, right? Literally in my own house, right above my router, and the shit still didn't work. Yeah, thanks, Xfinity. You're the worst. All right, let me get the professor in here. Emailing you now. Do this again. Boom, you're in. Let me go to try this one more time. Add title. All right. Boom. I spelled join wrong. I spelled join us live now. My God. Done. 3, 2, 1 for that. Perfect. Thank you all for bearing with me. And one more. I need to hire someone to do all this crap. Oh, what's up with Facebook? Always some shit with Facebook. Whatever. All right, Professor, you're on now. Let me get you in there. And we'll get this show rolling. There we go, dude.
What's up, my dude?
What's going on? I don't know what's going on in Facebook. It just doesn't let me log in. It's just a black screen on Facebook. You know. So while you got the book with you?
Yes, I have it downstairs. Give me 1 second. I'll go grab it.
Yeah. Trying to. All right, let's see. Edit, post, delete, turn on. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with. Sorry for those that are on Facebook. You can go to Instagram. We should be live there. Twitter, YouTube, wherever.
You got your OnlyFans hooked up?
All right.
All right.
Boom. There we go. Sorry for. All right. My God. Can you believe this, man? Can you believe this finally happened? Sorry for all those
No.
the sun that he blared in your face.
Dude, I
What's up,
I thought
everyone?
mine looked like the light of God shining down on me. Look at this.
Well, it is. I mean, so stupid.
Yeah, man. I'm
All right.
surprised. It's a long time coming. So thrilled to finally see something in our hands.
Finally. So we have the professor, myself. We're not going to bring anybody on. All we're going to do today is we're going to just talk a little bit about the book, what's in it, all the story.
If it's cutting out, I'm still in here. Basically, the book is a collection of short stories. So
I
it's,
don't know what else to do.
oh, you all right there?
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's wrong with Facebook. People are saying they're on Facebook Live, but they can't see anything. I don't know what's wrong. If you can hear me, I guess that's good enough. I mean, if you got Twitter, go over there. You can watch us live on Twitter, or you can click onto the link for my YouTube. It'll be live there as well.
It looks like you're up on Facebook now, bro. I just pulled it up. You're okay there.
Tonight at midnight, the paperback drops. The hard copy's out now, along with the Kindle version. If you know that's you want to be a little cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It is truly amazing. Nobody bothers me all day until I start this. So we first want to say thanks to everybody that's gotten it so far. We've gotten quite a few so far, which is amazing.
Yeah.
T, let's go over the book. So for everybody that doesn't, wondering how we got here, Tristan and I have been friends since we were kids. We actually had to start our own little production company now because of all the projects we got lined up. Productions, and that is, I lived on Granite Street. He lived on Bridge Street. Simple enough. The name works out pretty well. So we grew up. We played all sports together, right? Went to St. Bart's. Went to North. You went all the way through. I went to Frankfurt afterwards. My freshman years, I got booted.
Shit happens.
Yeah, all the crazy shit we did as kids, the whole 9 yards. You went to college. I went and worked in the workforce, and then finally we got to do that one job together that was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that was the Warren Unit. And we always said during that time, like, we got to write a book about this, because just in our first couple of years together, the shit was just unbelievable. So you and I were on different teams because our lieutenant at the time didn't like having, people that were friends working with each other, which I never agreed to that.
I get it though. I mean, it's a corruption thing. You know what I mean? If you and me are already tight, are we more likely to do something messed up?
No, I don't even think it was that.
I get it.
But that wasn't his reasoning,
No. I don't know. I mean, whoever you're comfortable with, work with. I mean, it's the same as in not your own neighborhood stuff,
He wants you to get along with everybody, which, whatever. Yeah. It's eventually we did get to work with each other because we went to the weekend unit. And that's where most of these stories come from, our time in the weekend on the weekend shift. Yeah. And what that shift looked like was we would go in at 3 or 4 o'clock on a Friday, worked our 40 hours, done at midnight Sunday.
I thought we started at 11 on Friday, didn't we?
No, we went in earlier.
I don't remember. There was 40 hours over 3 days.
It fluctuated depending on if there was holidays. Plus, there was times where we had to overlap into the last out from Sunday to Monday, and we were kind of treated like shit when that happened. So he switched us to just come in early Friday. Yeah, and it was so be it. And our very first job, I still remember, me and you, not in the book. And just so you know, we have 48 chapters.
Yeah, this is nothing.
This isn't even the tip of the iceberg compared to all the stories that we have that we could still write about, and stories we can't. And
we will.
Very, very first job, you and I, it was me, you, and I think Bill. We go chase this white girl on Frankfurt Avenue under the L. She runs up the stairs. We run up behind her, typical bullshit. She shuts the door on us. You kick it. You turn around, do a hog or horse kick, fucking boom. And you blow the door in. The only problem was you blew the bottom half of the door in. The other half stayed locked in place. and there was all kinds of shit there, and we couldn't get in. And you're like, crawl out, crawl out. She crawls out. Now, we didn't have a full-time supervisor at the time because they were rotating. Yeah. They didn't give us a full-time supervisor yet. And
we didn't have enough to cover the whole shift either. So you'd have to hope that they were awake or they were, somewhere available if you needed them.
And I still remember you were in a panic, like, oh my God, our first job, and they took a door. There's no sergeant. Like, what are we going to do? I was like, who gives a shit? You always panic. Tristan was a big panic.
They're going to yell at me, dude. They're going to yell at me. I'm the senior dude on the team. They're going to yell at me, man.
I never cared. I was like, it's all right. We'll be okay. And that was it. That was off to where we are now with this book, which for those that that don't know, what we did was we took all the stories. I wrote my stories down, did audio, and I sent everything to you. You physically sat down on the computer and wrote it. So I'll make sure everyone knows you physically wrote you took all my words because mine would have sounded like me arrest guy, me chase, me arrest guy. That's what my book would have been like. Still fun, but so everything you see, thanks to you. And what's it been, 2 years?
Yeah.
Crazy.
We've got a good collection here. I think we have some stories that are him, some are me, some are both of us, and some are neither of us. So we have some cool stories from, other guys and girls in the unit too. So I think it's a decent intro to the Warren Unit. Again, we could write an unabridged dictionary.
Every investigator that we worked with could probably write their own book.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And I just got, I won't say the person knows, so I appreciate you for giving me this file. But I just got I got every single detailed report, every arrest ever made from 2009 to the very last shift. I have them all.
None of mine will be in there. None of
yours.
Eloquently written, wonderful reports that I wrote.
So what we wanted to do is kind of go over the book, what you're going to see. Tell them when they read it, what is it they're going to, how they're going to read this? How's it going to look?
So basically, this isn't going to be like a traditional book where you start on page 1 and read through. Now, you can if you want. There's, no reason you can't do that. But I think the one beautiful thing about this is it's kind of 48 different stories. Some of them are a little longer, maybe 6, 7, 8 pages. Some of them are shorter, a page or two. So what I think is this is a great book that you could leave in the bathroom and read while you're in there, or you could sit down and read it all in a night if you wanted to. It's not super long, so it's not going to be something that's going to take you 8 years to read like War and Peace. But I think you can easily pick it up, read a little bit, put it down, pick it up, and you don't necessarily have to lose your place because these are individual stories.
Right.
The other thing is you're going to see the full gamut of emotion on here. There's some really exciting stories in here, some action, shootouts, crazy stuff. But you also see the other side of the job. So you see kind of maybe the mundane things that we don't really think about. You see the humorous side, which is us interacting with each other and us interacting with some of the folks we deal with on a daily basis. It might sound strange, but if you work in the same neighborhoods long enough, like we did in Kensington, the people on the streets are your coworkers, as strange as it sounds, and you know them and you know their backstories and their business, and sometimes they know yours. So you see kind of that personal element. You see some of the humor. We talk about this, and it's something I try to talk about when I do classes on policing. Law enforcement is a hard job. You see a lot of really miserable things, a lot of horrible things, and if you're not mentally strong, if you don't have some way to deal with that, it'll eat you up. So, one of the things we always did back in the day when the shift would end, depending on what time you're working, a lot of times we'd meet up for beers and kind of decompress and tell stories. And in my brain, that's kind of what this is. It's kind of a collection of, and I won't even say the best stories because there's some really big adventurous ones that we didn't include in this, simply in the name of time. Because if I kept adding and adding and adding, this could be, 500 pages. But I figured we draw a line somewhere, and if people like it, if it does well, maybe we'll put out a second one, or maybe we'll see it in some other format. But it's going to be all kinds of stories, all kinds of emotion, covering us, our friends, our colleagues, and it's that's what it's supposed to be, just kind of a snapshot of what it was like in the warrant unit. So we're very different than a lot of law enforcement units, but we're very similar in some ways as well, with camaraderie and teamwork and team building kind of stuff. So that's what it's designed to be, and we hope you enjoy it.
Yep. So let's go through it. So what you'll read, the very first story, which is obviously it's going to be the biggest story in the warrant unit history, and that was the night where Sergeant Joseph LeClaire was shot and killed. Sergeant DeSandro, my dog is out of its mind. What are you doing, dude? Anyway, Sergeant DeSandro, who was an investigator at the time, was shot in his hand. Will have lifelong injuries from that. Carlo, he was shot in the stomach. He too, not putting out his medical stuff, will suffer for the rest of his life as well. The other person that was there, Eric Jones, luckily did not have physical injuries, but we both know when you see that, what happened that night is going to haunt them, and it still does forever. So that is the first story.
And you have to leave.
See, and again, this is just, we could have probably wrote a book just on this story alone. A lot of what you're going to see or what you're going to read is just, here's what happened, here's some details, and moving on to the next one, because we don't want to overload you with all this, information about a story where, each story could have probably been 6-7 pages. That's why we try to keep it, as right to the point as possible for you. But yeah, for those that don't know, Sergeant LeClaire was shot on March 19th, 2004, the only killed in action in the warrant unit history. And, he paid the ultimate sacrifice. He was a, former Marine. We did not know him. I did not know him personally. I came right after. You were in training right when this happened, or going through the process.
I believe I started in December.
Can't hear you. Yeah. So yeah, I think Tristan was in the training at the time when it happened. So probably got to unmute the mic down there in the bottom.
Yeah, I'm good. Can you hear me?
So that's the first story you're going to hear.
Can you hear me now?
Nope. Can't hear you.
Let me leave and come back in. I don't know why it's doing this.
You can hear me, right, everyone? Yeah. All right. He'll jump back on. So the second story, this one was crazy. This is where we go into the Ramada Inn up on the boulevard. For you Northeast people, all the motels and hotels on Roosevelt Boulevard, starting from the Hub and what's the other one? The Roosevelt, all the way up till you get up to Langhorne. And let me get him back on here. You there?
Yeah, you hear me?
Nah, still can't hear you, dude. Yeah, you just take them out. So we go up, we get a call in, and you'll see in the story, a person calls the warrant unit. Nope, can't hear you, dude. And it's on your end, not on my end. You're coming out good. So we get a call in for a prostitute that's wanted. We've locked her up dozens of times. Great, easy job. We're like, all right, it's an easy stat for us. No big deal. Let's go get her later on. We go up, and what we find is unbelievable. Jesus, see, we're falling apart here. He can't stay on. We can't hear Tristan. My stupid phone won't stay on. Anyway, we go up, we find her, only to find a huge prostitution ring. All the girls are being held captive, being raped. It turned out to be a wild story. So that's our second one. And we are actually in the middle of some negotiations to possibly turn that into a documentary. Still can't hear you, dude. Our third chapter, Uncle Matty. There's no way we can go into this book without having a couple stories about him. The greatest man ever. I love that dude. I miss him. It's a sad day every day that the world don't have Uncle Matty, but that one's where you read that story. It's so hilarious, and you'll like that. And there's a couple stories with Uncle Matty. He's the best. This one, our fourth chapter, is when me and Tristan actually had to go out and pick up a prisoner. We had two girls on board. Okay. We were going to lock up a third in Lower Marion Township. We get out there. I go in to get the girl. Tristan stays in the car, and boom, they both try to escape from him. And he had to make the decision which one to grab. So he grabs the one girl. The other one takes off. We lose her. Can't find her. And that story's while he's blowing my phone up when I'm inside. And I was like, something happened. I knew it. And, you'll read that story. You'll see how that ended as well. It's crazy. Fifth chapter. Is this good? This is a fun one. This girl was wild. Virginia Kane. Virginia was 80 pounds soaking wet on a good day. Little white girl. The attitude. She thought she was Mike Tyson. She thought she was that tough. And whenever she was wanted, she would be so nice. Like, hi, Mark, how are you? How's everything going? Blah, blah, blah. And as soon as we knew her talking like that, we knew she was wanted. But she has one of the most famous places to ever hide on us. And she did it a couple times. You'll get to see that. You'll read that in that book. Chapter 6 is Tristan's. He'll tell you about that crazy ass situation.
Yeah, hiding spots is always fun. I think they can hear me.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I think they can hear me. It's just you, bro.
I don't know what to do, bub. Chapter 7 is also Tristan's. Once he gets on, he'll give a brief overview of it. Chapter 8, this one was this is my go-to story when I tell this. Let me pull this up here. He's okay. All right, so you guys can hear him. I just can't hear you. Okay. And you can hear me though, right?
I can hear you.
Tell them about 6 and 7. They're your chapters.
6 and 7. 6 is interesting. 6 is probably one of the parts of policing you don't generally think about. I mean, I think everybody, you talk about what's it like in the warrant unit. They think of shootouts, chases, crazy stuff. But a part of it is just the humanitarian part of the job. So this is a story about one of my another partner I used to work with. He and I were driving down the street in West Philly and basically found a child in the middle of the night, 2-year-old walking through the streets in a diaper in the winter, freezing cold, just out in the streets. And we had to kind of work backwards, find this poor child and figure out, what do we do? And Mark had a similar story like that where, he found somebody as well. So, I mean, I think this is parts of the job you don't really think of, but they come into play. And honestly, they're some of the more soul crushing ones because I don't know, at least Sarge is probably similar, but in my mind, somebody gets shot as part of a drug deal comes with the territory. Somebody ODs after ingesting heroin comes with the territory. But if you're a small kid and you're stuck in a bad situation because your parents make poor decisions, that kind of bothers me. So there's some stories like that in there as well. And that's that one. And then, there are a few like that. So Mark will tell you about some of his now. Go ahead, Fu.
So my go-to story, chapter 8. This is where we go up to Old York Road. We're looking for this transgender person. At the time, we used to call them shims because that's what they wanted to be called. We would ask them, how do we refer to you? And that's how they were shims. That's what they would tell us. So we were looking for this guy, 6'6" black dude, who would always wear a red dress and a blonde wig. It was the funniest thing. And he would wear high heels or shit.
But he looked like Karl Malone.
And he had warrants, and we find him. So we go get him. And what we would do is we would allow anybody we would arrest, we would allow them to empty their pockets, because they would have little paraphernalia on them and stuff like that. We weren't going to jam them on it. So we're letting her empty everything out. And she starts talking shit to our lieutenant, who himself is 6'4" black guy. And she's like, I'll ball you up. And she's doing all the dribbling motions and stuff. And we're dying laughing because it's hilarious. And then she just runs. She kicks off her heels, her wig flies off, and we just collapse to the floor, hysterical laughing. That will be in our first episode, by the way, when we do a show, because it was that funny. Runs down, we chase her down on the train tracks, this Broad Street line. And what do you think happened? In between the train stations, train's coming. So you'll get to read that crazy ass story. That is my go-to story when when people say, what's some of the craziest things? That's my first one all the time. Guy, Professor, number 9's yours.
9.
9 and 10.
Oh, 9 is craziness. 9 is finding somebody under the effects of every drug known to man, quite possibly, and suffering from mental illness and or demonic possession. Some of the people you deal with in the streets is, I don't know, some of them are in really bad shape. And sometimes they don't really train you on how to deal with these things because I don't really think there is any way to train it other than to go and do it. So this is actually a story where we were doing a field training operation, exercise, taking the new guys out and training them. And the sergeant was there as well as me. And I think we had another one of the more, seasoned guys, and we had a bunch of rookies. And we basically usually take them out to somewhere like Old York Road or Kensington Ave. So have them interview, drug users that are kind of, I guess, low risk from a law enforcement standpoint. So it's one of our encounters there. And it's one that really just stands out in the back of my brain, not because it was crazy or dangerous for us in the traditional sense, but because danger kind of presented out of nowhere. And it was just a really bizarre situation. If you read it, it's a weird story. So that one's mine. And then the other one's just a little, fanboy one. One of the cool things about working in the warrant unit, I guess in Philadelphia in general, is Philly is a major city. People shoot movies here, TV shows, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times when you work last out, like we did, we stumble across famous people. And there's a couple of stories in there about kind of noted personalities that we've dealt with. Some of them we arrested, some of them we just saw while they were working. I probably mentioned this on the podcast before. If you hang out, we started at 11 at night. We usually go to Lorenzo's or somewhere down South Street, get a slice and eat at the beginning of our shift. But what you would see during sports seasons is a lot of the athletes that are in town, once the game's done, they're out for the night partying. So you see all kinds of professional athletes walking up and down South Street on a late at night. So it's an interesting story about that. Back to food.
So the next one, chapter 11, that's where we caught. Now I want to give credit to my boy John, Johan, John D. Forget who else was there. we go to this house, 12th and Rush, right around there, looking for a guy that's wanted. There was two in there. They both go, run and hide. We get in the house, find the one guy with the warrant, can't find the other guy, locate him. But his behavior was very suspicious. Didn't have any criminal warrant, bench warrants, but we knew something was up. And they, I forget, I think it was John recognized, like, yeah, this dude looks familiar for some reason. Well, here he'd seen, because he would read all the bulletins the FBI would send. And dude was the FBI's Philadelphia most wanted bank robber. He was the FBI's most wanted in Philadelphia. He was a bank robber, hit 4 banks on Broad Street. They called him the Smiling Bandit, the Broad Street Bandit. You'll see why. You'll read the story on why they call him the Smiling Bandit. It's hilarious. That's a great story. So, and it was great because we had to wake an FBI agent up at like 4 in the morning on a Sunday. And if you know anything about the FBI, they work 9 to 5. They ain't getting up for no reason. And that dude woke his ass up, flew down to our location, made it there in like 20 minutes, and took it. And to their credit, they gave us credit. Now, when you read the press release, which you can find, again, his name is Billy Ray Barker. It was this big, giant, elaborate team effort, how we all worked together to catch him. Yeah, that's not how it happened. But they gave us the credit, and that's all I can, that's all we wanted. I want to make sure
that's more than we usually
get. But they were the ones that really found him. I was there as a part of it, but my guys, John and Johan, 2 of the best people ever, definitely deserve that. And FBI gave us accommodations too. I think the next one's yours.
Yeah.
Next 2 are yours, Tig.
Yep. Next couple are mine here. The Creeper is one. The Creeper is actually about locking up a pedophile. Pedophiles are one of the groups that I would tend to target the most. I don't know, we mentioned this before, but every once in a while we work up kind of like theme nights. So we'd say, all right, we're going to hit Montgomery County or Bucks County, or, maybe we're just going to take all drug dealer cases, or we'll pick all gang affiliate cases, or whatever it is. So we decided to pick pedophiles and go after them all. And this is kind of an interesting case about hunting down a pedophile who was up in Bensalem hiding from us for a while. Next one's PCP is a hell of a drug, because it is. And this is about a incident that I think we got out of fairly, we were lucky and got out unscathed for the most part. I actually wound up dislocating my shoulder during this fight that ensued, fighting a guy high on PCP.
It's unclear how close the 2 jets came to each other, but the military jets.
Oh, who's watching the news here? And then dashing through the snow is mine. It's just about dealing with the elements. We probably mentioned this before, but one of the wonderful things about the warrant unit is we operate at 365 days a year. So, while you're home eating your turkey on Thanksgiving, we're still at work. Or you're out picking up Easter eggs, we're still at work. What that also means is sometimes we're hitting people's houses on Easter and Christmas and things like that. So it's just about dealing with the elements. And then the last one there, stupid is as stupid does. It's about people doing some of the just strangest things. When people are scared, they panic and do dumb stuff. And this is a situation where the guy, if he didn't panic and do something stupid, probably would have went to jail for 3 days. But because he acted like a fool, wound up getting years because of his actions afterwards. Can you hear me now, Sarge? You back? Nope, guess not. I'll point and see if he sees me here.
Did you get past 15, T? Yep. This is Lorenzo. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you, when I saw the one person that you're going to talk about in the food, I see him. He's like, "Am I in it?" I was like, "Oh, you're in it. You're in the book." But
did you? Okay. No, it is what it is. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, fucking Jesus Christ, man! Some of the stuff we used to have to really try to have fun with these stories, man, or with these jobs. This one, 17. I don't even want to. This is going to be more fun for us because we used to break balls. But in this one, you'll see our dark humor. That's all I'm going to tell you. 17. And to her credit, Cherie, a great, great female officer. She was a good sport about it. But damn, if I didn't embarrass her to no end. So 18. I'll tell this. You go ahead and tell this one.
I won't tell the whole story because it'll give it away, but basically we used to work with a gentleman who was really fun, really entertaining guy. I think he's passed away now. But he was really great fun. He was a day shift guy. So, we had the night shift that me and Mark predominantly worked on and the weekend shift. But the other things we actually had a house arrest unit. It was called EMU that worked in the daytime. I think the Sarge worked there for a bit at the end of his career, but it was a different unit. And it's one of the stories about their adventures in the world of house arrest. So I'll just leave it at that. It's a pretty funny story.
So, chapter 19. This was a crazy event where we went out and we were looking for a guy on 3100 block of Hartville. We're looking for a white kid, and we get there. A drug dealer shoots at my partner, John. All hell breaks loose. What happened during it, after it, you'll see. It's pretty crazy. So I don't want to give away too many details, but that one, you'll enjoy that. One of the most scariest nights I've ever had. So a couple of these coming up are the next one T will talk about, but chapter 21, that's our training. This kind of gives you an idea of what it was like in the warrant unit, what we went through and stuff like that. We want to give you an idea of, what we learned, how we went through it. I didn't really want to put it in there, but kind of give you guys some, point of reference for some of the stuff we would do and what we learned. Chapter 23, Scofflaw Supreme. So, T, I just jumped up to 23. I skipped over the training part.
Sure.
We would get jobs to go lock up people with traffic tickets. And it was a pain in the ass, but some nights we're like, you know what? We're doing it. Might as well make the night of it. So this one guy owed like 50 cents. And I was like, what are we doing here? So I actually get the guy's phone number and call him. I'm like, yeah, listen, you only owe, I'm sorry, I don't even mean to bother you. It's embarrassing, but you owe it. For whatever reason, they have a warrant for you. And he flipped out and he talked all this shit. And I was like, okay, so guess what we're going to do? We made a night of it. We went and rounded up all these people, him included. One kid owed over 100 grand. So we went crazy, picked up so many people that when we got to the traffic court in the morning, the media was there. That's how explosive it was. I think we locked 20 plus people up, hundreds of thousands of dollars owed, and they were not fucking happy. And that guy included. We had to get him because of the shit talking, which we didn't want to do. But 24, this is where me and Tristan have both run into situations where we found people, kids out in the middle of the street at night. This is one of those situations where, read that, you'll see how wild this was.
Mm-hmm.
25, this is the one that will stick with me forever, where we had a guy that was wanted for homicide by causing death. I forget the exact charge, but homicide by vehicle. His girlfriend fell off the bike while he was driving, died. Read that story, because this is where one of the few times our chief actually called up and said, you need to go do this job. Nothing else, top priority. Never did that. It was the only time. Spoke to the victim's father, who was devastated, destroyed. And what we learned was insane. This wasn't the first girl to die under those circumstances. So how we caught him was absolutely crazy. Johan, you'll read this part where we were all vested in this. Most of the times on any job you lock somebody up, you never take it personally. Who cares? That's what gets people in trouble in law enforcement. But this guy, we all took it personally. Found him when it was 2 feet of snow in an apartment in Mayfair. And what Johan did was nothing but short of a miracle that he survived. So you'll read that story. T, 26, that's you.
This is another one that's a little bit of some of the fun parts of the job. Who mentioned it earlier on. Some of the stuff we see is...
I'm jumping over to Twitter real quick.
Yeah. Some of the stuff we see is crazy and tragic. So I think you have to have some fun on the job, or, to be quite frank, you go insane. So you have some fun. And this is one of the the fun jobs. There's a lot of fun ones we didn't get to include. Maybe if we do another one, I'll put them in. But it's just one of those fun jobs. So I'll just leave it at that because I can't tell you what happened or it kind of gives it away. The next one up there would be mine to Frederica Krueger. This is an interesting one for those of you that may be in law enforcement. I don't know. There's a lot of talk about hiring standards these days and whether they should be raised, whether the bar should be even for everybody, or what should the practice be. One thing that I've always found really bizarre is some of the professional grooming standards. Now, as a guy who has a goatee, I kind of like to be able to have facial hair because if I cut it off, I look like a fat 12-year-old. That being said, some of the things that they allowed to happen in some of the other law enforcement agencies in the city kind of blew my mind. And this is going to deal with one of those kind of stories where I ran into somebody who, I don't know, apparently was within their uniform code, but didn't look like it to me. But it's just a little funny aside story there.
So when I say some nights locking up people in Philadelphia, it was literally like shooting fish in a barrel. There was at any given time 30 to 50,000 fugitives wanted for criminal bench warrants, another 5,000 wanted for child support, and 250,000 fugitives when it came to traffic court. And again, you can get a warrant in traffic court by not paying a ticket, missing court, missing a payment plan, or never responded. So they were not priority warrants. But again, those numbers were insane. And it gave us a ton of resources when leverage when we wanted to lock somebody up or we needed somebody and you had a traffic court warrant. All it was is an inconvenience for you for 24 hours, but for us, it helped. On this chapter, we literally had somebody jump in our car with a warrant. Read that story. It's hilarious. Yeah. It's somebody you can't even believe it. And that wasn't the only time. There was a couple of times where people just walk up to us with warrants, like, I got a warrant. Like, take me to jail. 29, Uncle Matty again. When I say people always say this about someone that's passed. The nicest person, love him, her, miss him. Uncle Matty is truly that person. We wanted to really dedicate a good chapter to him, and this was it. It's probably one of our biggest chapters. But please read it. You'll get to see the kind of person he was. He was not, he acted clumsy, but he wasn't. It was a ruse. He was a very smart man, but the man did not like using GPS. He would try to pull out a map, figure it out, and this is a time where he had a busload of prisoners, got lost, had to stop and get gas in his own dime, and the prisoners had to tell him how to get to the prison. And they get there, they're all singing, laughing, they're having a good time. I'm pretty sure he bought them all dinner too. But he used to work in the house arrest unit afterwards. And when he did that, he would go to these places and, just wait till you see what I don't want to give too much away, but wait till you see what he would do for some of these people. I mean, it was absolutely astonishing. The heart he had. Again, it's not fair. Great man. But 29, that's going to be one I really hope everyone, even if you have to jump right to it, read that one. And, always remember Uncle Matty. T, next two are yours.
Yeah. Next one is mine. Let's see what we got. Fat Guy 5K is what it sounds like. One of the interesting things about working in law enforcement in general is you often find yourselves in foot chases, right? Some guys are lightning fast and it's no problem. They jump out there like Usain Bolt and hunt them down. Other dudes are built like me, so we got to run a little smarter and maybe not, faster or harder. So we talk a little bit about chases and some of the stuff that happens. This is an interesting story involving a chase down by there's a bridge in Kensington that is now, I believe it's called the B Street Bridge. It was also in the Rocky film when Rocky runs over it and starts running with all the kids during a training montage. But underneath of there is essentially land that time forgot, and there's tons of drug users, heroin users used to live under there. And we used to run up under there once in a while. The LT would make us go through there, and it's kind of an entertaining story, about one of those times we went under the bridge to see, what was going on down there. The lighter side is just, again, a couple of funny stories about encounters that happened to us while we were on the job. and again, and this doesn't sound really weird, but as much as our job was ultra serious and super dangerous, and again, behind any door could be certain death, we also had a hell of a lot of fun. And I mentioned this before. I think you have to do it to keep yourself mentally okay with the things you see every day and not completely give in to PTSD. So it's just some of the kind of comical, funny things that have happened over the years. And, as much as I think those big ticket drama kind of stories, the action stories, rooftop chases always get top billing, some of those funny stories are the ones that I remember the most. So, some of those as well are in there. That's what that chapter is.
So, as you see it on 31, it's a collection of funniest stories that we put together. Me and Tristan are both involved in. 32, this chapter, this is the one that will always haunt me because there were two girls that, again, we would lock up so many people all the time that you got to know them. They weren't bad people. So there was one girl, there's two girls, girl Michelle and a girl Jamie. And me and my old partner Bill were driving them to the prison one night, and they both start crying. And this story always sticks with me, that they're upset, they're hysterical, and we're like, oh, here we go. They're trying to get out. They want to go to prison. They don't want to go to jail. So they would start crying, saying something hurts, because they knew chances are some people would cut them loose and be like, I ain't going to the hospital and sitting all night. So, we would just kind of talk them out of it. So we go, and when I say those names, that's not their real names, but we change all the names in the books. So they're crying. I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? So the one girl's sitting behind me, the other one's sitting behind Bill. And she was like, we were just talking, and we're so, we're upset. Like, we were just thinking like, wow, this could have been a night where they were imagining that trip as a night where we're all going out. Like, the one girl's my girlfriend, the other one's Bill's girlfriend. We're going to the bar. We're going to go out, have a fun night, blah, blah, blah. And they started getting upset because they're like, that'll never happen for us. The one girl had HIV. Her dad used to call me all the time, like, can you find her? She got to take her medicine. And we'd go locate her, take her home. And, my heart broke for them because they weren't bad people. They were very sweet girls. And I made a deal with them. I was like, look, get clean for a year. You do that, me and Bill will take you out. We'll go out. We'll tell our wives at the time, no big deal. Fortunately, that didn't happen because this story here talks about how the one girl who used to go to Archbishop Ryan, and we would tell every time, anyone that knows anything about Archbishop Ryan, we are ARs, their, thing. They all scream at each other. So whenever I would see her, I'd scream, we are AR, and she'd yell back hi. And she was never wanted. But this, so didn't see her for a while. Get a phone call from a girl who used to work for me who's now a cop in the 26th district. And she's like, yo, go find this scumbag Bishop. And that's not his real name, but he's a pimp down there. And I was like, what's up? She's like, so-and-so is dead. And he's the one that did it. And that is what chapter 32 is going to go through. That whole, it still haunts me. It's such an outrage at this, funny little, girl, sweet as pie, was just, you'll see, just thrown away like trash. But next one's 34. T, why don't you go ahead and talk about this one? 33 is our training. You get to learn about what we went through and all that.
Yeah, we had some.
If not, skip over, go right to 34.
We had some debate as to whether to include some of the recruit training stuff. I had talked to one of my friends who was not in law enforcement and found it to be useful. I think for Mark and me and a lot of the other folks that maybe were in law enforcement, it seems kind of unnecessary. But if, maybe you hadn't, this might be some background information that would be useful. Because one thing I think about is when I used to tell stories about some of these encounters in class when I was teaching criminal justice courses, students would always say, why don't you use a taser? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And the answer is, we didn't have one, right? So what did we have? OC spray, handcuffs, and thunder and lightning. That's about it. We didn't have much else. We had a gun, which might as well have been a paperweight, right? Because how often do you get to shoot somebody? Not very often. So it kind of goes into the training and, reasons why we have what we have, so a little bit more about us. That would be the recruit. The other one, watch where you step. is about some of the urban exploration, let's put it that way, that we used to do in the city of Philadelphia. So Philly, like a lot of big cities, at one point was a huge industrial center. Over the years, all of our jobs left, but the buildings remained. A lot of those buildings were taken over by drug users, drug addicts, drug dealers, or just homeless folks in general. So a lot of what we did, especially down in Kensington, involved us going into abandoned houses, which we used to call abandonminiums, or abandoned factories altogether. And this is about one of those factories. I think it burned down a few years back. It was a massive factory. I believe it was a shoe factory back in the day, but just kind of talks about what it's like walking through these hulking structures that are falling apart and breaking into pieces. There's no natural light, so you just kind of have a flashlight to kind of make your way through, hope you stay safe, and hope you can figure out who's in there. So it talks a little bit about that. And then we go into 35, which is going to talk about friends and neighbors. Mark will probably hit on this a little bit more, but this is, again, one of the weird parts of working in law enforcement is we often found ourselves locking up people we knew. So this could be family, friends, neighbors. And this is just kind of some of the stories that involve our friends and acquaintances. You might say, well, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to lock up somebody you know? Can't they retaliate? In my mind, it was always, they know who I am. They know who I work for. If they want to retaliate, they know where to find me. I would rather go there and be that point of contact so I can make this go as smoothly as possible. So I'm not a target in my own neighborhood because of something somebody else did. So this is just a couple of those stories where we ran into friends and family members or neighbors and, kind of how that went.
So, I don't, did you just talk about 35, about the people we locked up? Okay. That sucked. I feel bad for a lot of, especially, Mickey, he was a good guy. But good that Pete's still beating all that. So I'm happy for him. 36, which way did he go? This turned into one of those situations. We were going to a functioning crack house to look for a guy. It was this whole scenario. It was literally out of like a Farley Brothers, opening scene of a movie. Somebody walks out of the house, we all stop, and like bump into each other because we don't want to make noise. Dude doesn't see us, walks down, looks, sees us, is like, I'm not going to jail. And what happens next was like a 20-minute foot chase, multiple houses. He went into multiple houses, attacked multiple people, only to be caught by a couple of my buddies in the 24th district, who then proceeded to break my balls, saying I couldn't catch ghosts or criminals and that they had to help me with everything. And that was in reference to, at the time, I just filmed an episode of On Ghost Hunters Live, 2007. Yeah, 2007 Hollywood or Halloween night. And yeah, that was a great one. 37. This is one of my other go-to stories. When I mistakenly called a fat girl pregnant. She was not happy, and a melee ensued after that. So definitely check that one out. That's a fun one. The next one, Tristan and I are both at. This one was when we locked up the former, what was he, middleweight?
I think it was like welterweight or something weird.
Whatever it was, Meldrick Taylor. Any boxing fan, any sports fan from the 90s will know what happened there. A lot of what was said between us and Meldrick, we didn't put in because we wanted to keep a lot of it to ourselves. But what everybody has heard in public, we put in a book. So definitely read that. That was, that was a sad day. Chapter 40. That was my first shooting, where we went for a guy, wanted for a gun, Upper Darby. Tristan, you were in the office, heard at the time, listened to it on the radio.
Yeah.
What was crazy was everything that happened. You'll see there's a twist at the end that you're going to read, and you're going to be like, wait, what? And, let's just say Larry Krasner would have been happy. 41. This is a perfect example. And I kind of put this video out, give a little details on this one story. A lot of these stories we're just from memory. All the details, the fine details we didn't have until I got all this paperwork, and I read over this report and I completely forgot. So this was where we're driving by 61st and Kayla Hill. We see a guy putting a surgical glove on. Long story short, he was going to shoot up the house. What I had forgotten was he had a bench warrant as well. It was him and a woman in the story. That's what we put. But what I also forgot, there was 3 other women in the car and 2 kids. And they told us they were going to shoot the house up. Everything they said, the kid got beat up, had his bike stolen. They were going to go shoot the house up. And they were leaving. They were going to flee the city. They were gone. And you get.
All right. I guess the Sarge has disappeared.
Oh, now I hear you, dude.
Can you hear me now?
That's weird.
There you go. God intervened.
There you go. Right. What's this one? Jersey, don't F around. That's you.
Jersey. This is just a little something against, kind of a little humorous one. But it kind of illustrates maybe one of the biggest problems in Philadelphia.
Now I can't hear you. So stupid.
A lot of times people think that, the problem with crime is that the cops aren't locking people up. And that's simply not the case. Whether it's Philly or New Orleans, New York, cops are out there doing their job, right? They're arresting people. They're doing their best to take dangerous criminals off the street and keep your community safe. Unfortunately, the other end of that transaction, you think of kind of like an equal sign. The cops are on one side. The other side is the courts. And what you'd hope is that when you pick somebody up, the courts actually do their job and put that person behind bars. I think Mark was just talking about it, in the last one, some issues about maybe judicial outcomes. So this is kind of dealing with that. I don't want to give away too much, obviously. I want to kind of keep it, kind of limited. But reality is there are times when we do our job as we should. We do everything right. And unfortunately, the revolving door that's the justice system in Philly lets us down. And that's going to kind of talk about one of those situations. But the other interesting thing is, even though Philly shits the bed and doesn't do what they're supposed to, some other jurisdictions do. Thank God.
Yeah, and one thing with that, there was a little loophole in the extradition rules when it came to somebody wanted in Jersey or Pennsylvania, that if the Delaware River Port Authority Police had jurisdiction 1 mile
over the
both
bridge.
States.
Yeah.
So if they found somebody right next to the bridge and would call us, they could drive them right over or bring them right to us. That was fun. Also a pain in the ass because they would call us every fucking day. But 43, this is where literally a kid told me he was going to shoot me in the face. You get to read that story, and I'll forever be in debt to Wheels, because if it weren't for him, I could have done something stupid and wouldn't be here today. This one. This is one of those stories where anything can happen at any time, truly. And it just goes to show where we go to a house for a child support warrant. On paper, this is a nothing job. Means nothing. He's going to be out in a few hours. Kind of a waste of time, which turned into a major drug bust. So
it's one of the beauties of the job. I don't know how you guys are socially, but I always thought the days where I got dressed up, did my hair, was ready to go out, turned out to be a nothing day. The days when your buddies just call you up like, "Yo, let's hit the corner bar," always turned out to be the bangers, right? You're just wearing dirty clothes. You didn't prepare it. It's the best night ever. Law enforcement is kind of like that. A lot of times the jobs you think like, all right, this could be some heavy shit here. Get everybody ready. Let's roll in, guns ready. Turned out to be nothing burgers. You go in, dude puts his hands up, you lock him up, and it's nothing. Now, the flip side of that is, as Mark said, sometimes you go after folks for what seem like trivial or stupid things, and you stumble onto something much better. So sometimes serendipity works in our favor, and we find cool stuff. And there are a couple stories like that in here, I think, where you go there for A and wind up finding B, C, and D, which are much more important. A little bit there. Next one up is
cops will call us too all the time. Like, "Yo, you got a warrant for this house?" We do. Yeah. That's all. And we would all go, and they put us on. And I mean, I have countless accommodations from Philly PD for just simple shit like that.
Yeah, I don't know if we discussed this before. I'm sure we have in the podcast at some point. One of the beautiful things about the warrant unit and bench warrants in general is once they're issued, they're good indefinitely.
Yep.
So that meant that we had essentially the keys to the kingdom, because if you have 200,000 or more bench warrants or different kinds of warrants, probation detainers, bench warrants, traffic court, family court warrants, all these different things, that means most of the city probably has a warrant on the property for somebody at some point, right? Or some neighborhoods, at least. Let's just say at least some of the neighborhoods where you're more likely to be. You've got keys to the city, so we were a valuable unit to team up with in that regard. So kind of cool.
So 45, it's you. Chapter
Door
45.
breaching. Door breaching is great fun, but I will say this is very stressful because you're the first man up at the front of the door. I breached a lot of doors, so did some of my a lot of colleagues. And I will swear to you, it is an art form. It's not as simple as just kicking in like people think. Some doors are. Some you can walk up and use. If you got an interior door, probably put your hand right through it.
Mhm.
When you're dealing with exterior doors, some of them are harder to take than others, and a lot of times you're going to see criminals take precautions to keep us out. So we used to see doors that would be barred shut with boards straight across. You'd have those New York locks that kind of go down to the ground. People barricade them. People do all kinds of crazy stuff. And you got to kind of figure out how do you get in. Sarge mentioned earlier a door I hit and it kind of busted in half. So it kind of looks like those, barn doors you have where you roll the top down and you can still talk to somebody. So it's just some of the cooler stories and more entertaining stories about breaching doors. And then we kind of get in the road to the warrant unit. And these last three chapters kind of go together, I guess, to some extent. Maybe I should have worked them in earlier than we did.
Well, no, because it's good because it shows how
I think
we
it shows
started
how we
and
got
how it ends.
Yeah. So, I mean, as he mentioned, obviously I wound up in the warrant unit first. I had no great, aspirations of being in law enforcement. I was in grad school working on a master's degree. I wanted to go join the State Department. And I happened to be working as a bail interviewer, was upstairs, kind of fell in with the warrant unit. One thing leads to another. I'm in there a year or so, talking to Fu, saying, "Hey man, check this out." He came over and worked with us. So it goes from, I think 46 is kind of like how I got there and how, I guess I in turn kind of recruited Mark to come over.
Mhm.
And then the last two are just kind of his beginning and end. I think those chapters used to be called Alpha and Omega in the original. So it's kind of like the beginning and the end of this story.
And not to go in, because I want you to read these. I'm not even going to give you many details, but let's just say my first job ever was a heart-pounding, crazy rooftop foot chase we were all involved in, and all of South Philly PD, 1st, 3rd District were involved in. Wild. Another story we didn't include in this book was another one similar to that where AirTac was there. That'll be in the next book, but that was a crazy one. And it goes from that's my very, very first job ever to now the warrant unit has been absorbed by the sheriff's office. We are on our last night, our last official shift in the Philadelphia warrant unit's history. It's over at 7 a.m. or midnight, I think it was. And my very last job was another foot chase that I was alone for and was abandoned by the sheriffs, and again, in this chapter, we're going to take some shots at the sheriff's brass and listen, the court brass too, because they all conspired, and I hope the FBI reads this because people need to go to jail for that still to this day, because it was an illegal, corrupt marriage between the two that bypassed so many laws and for nothing, just because the judge hated us. But it shows, my last job, what happened, wild fucking ending to my career, and that's how the book ends. So we hope you pick it up, whichever version is easier for you. We're not looking to become millionaires off of this or anything, but what we are hoping is enough people buy this book so we can take that money and film a pilot episode to pitch to the networks. We have production companies on board. People want to do it. We actually have meetings with a couple people from a couple big time, movie companies. So we're hoping, all this, and if enough books sell, that enough people will get it. It'll get enough attention, and there's at least 10, 20 stories in there where you can make your own series from it. And that's the goal. Sell enough of these so we can fund our own episode, take that episode, go to Netflix, go to Hulu, go to FX, whoever, and say, hey, you interested? And if they say yes, we'll bring everyone with us. Always said that. And if they say no, hey, whatever. At least we tried. And that's what the whole point was of this, writing this book, doing this was we've had pipe dreams since we were kids. Let's put one together, and we did. And brother, if it weren't for you writing it, physically sitting down, taking all the time, never would have gotten done. So I appreciate that.
You know what, Phil? Honestly, I look at this is going to sound really weird. My wife said this is like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. You know what I mean? Neither of them would have ever done anything individually. You kind of need the other person to push them. This is something I've written in my head 10 times, but sometimes you just need that impetus to say, let's go and do this. You know?
I wish I can get immunity for some of the other shit.
Well, that's the craziest part. I mean, we got some real crazy shit that, you know, obviously I'm not writing.
I will tell this one story since he is deceased, and it's a typical Uncle Matty story. I'll give you this to end the show. Uncle Matty, like I said, you'll see 2 chapters in there about him. Everybody loved the man. If you did not like Uncle Matty, you were the asshole. That was the saying around the office. Yeah. So we weren't even there for it, but the story's legendary. They go to a house, and a guy comes out the back door, and they hear a shot. Everybody thinks, holy shit, Uncle Matty got in a fucking shooting. Team runs through the house. They grab the guy. Uncle Matty's good. Everyone's like, okay, what the fuck was that? And everyone's looking around, and everyone's just staring at each other. And Uncle Matty starts laughing. And he's like, what? Everyone's like, no. He goes, yeah. Uncle Matty popped one off into the fucking ground.
Accidental discharge. Oh,
accidental discharge.
Hey, that happened. The cop in the town I live out here shot himself in the foot doing that, man. I mean, that happens, right?
You know, so
yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
It went into the ground. Nothing was, you know, no one was hit. No damage to property. You know, they had each other's back, and that was that. But Uncle Matty.
Yep. Let me just give you one thing, a little recap on the book. So right now we have the hardcover is available now as we speak, as is the Kindle version. If you have Kindle Unlimited, which some of you may, you can also read it on Kindle Unlimited. And then tomorrow, I think it's at midnight tonight, I guess technically, the paperback will drop. Pricing, we tried to keep them as reasonable as we could. You know, like Mark said, these are going through Amazon self-published, because if we had gone to another publisher, would just have delayed this another year, and we would have lost more creative control over the way we're telling these stories. And to me, that's what this is about. I'm under no illusion we're going to make $10 million off of this. So if we're not going to make money, I'd rather at least have my stories told the damn way I want them to be, right? To keep them truthful. So, you know, just keep that in mind. When you see those list prices, we get a fraction of that. Amazon gets a cut, plus you have to pay for shipping, and you have to pay for printing costs and all those fees. So please don't think we're out here making buckets of money off it. It's not the case. Like Fu said, we're just trying to get enough to do this TV pilot. Now, that being said, if you want to help us out and you do get the book, if you like it, please list a review on Amazon, because that'll help us when they start promoting the book and doing the rankings. The other thing is, if you like it, you know, just share it with friends. I tried to share it on some Kindle Unlimited groups or different things like that, or true crime books. If you know other friends or family members that might be interested, you know, tell them to take a look. Like I said, the Kindle Unlimited thing, if you pay for the service, you could read it there. So, you know, if you want to take a look, go check it out, man. It's available on a bunch of different platforms, and we hope you enjoy it. Sorry it took so long.
And maybe in the fall we'll look into doing the audio version too. If it's selling well, we'll definitely do that, where we'll both, you know, read our chapters. You know, and to a lot of the people we worked with, we didn't put your names in there. It wasn't because we didn't think of you or anything. It was just we couldn't get you know, permission. You know, a lot of the people we text, hey, do you want to be a part of it? Gave us their permission, some without their names and stuff like that, you know. But next one, anybody, especially anyone that worked with us, if we do another one and you want a part of it, you know, like we said, we're more than happy to bring everyone along. This was our dream, but there was a lot of people involved in it. So,
and like Mark said, the great thing about this is, you know, I'd like to think we're super unique, and this was just our careers were super interesting and fun. Reality is, you know, it wasn't. There's tons of guys and girls that worked with us that did similar types of things. And, you know, again, I think one of the beautiful things about the warrant unit is, even if you're in law enforcement, and you think, hey, man, I've been doing this stuff for a while. What we did is somewhat different. You know, I mean, I've talked about this on the podcast a million times. If you're a regular cop, you're limited geographically. Usually you're stuck within, you know, whatever sector you're in a big city. So you might work a couple block radius for your, you know, years at a time. The other thing is paperwork. Because our job, these people already had warrants in place. We basically grabbed them, took them and the warrant up to CFCF and dropped them off. That was it. So while many law enforcement officers, you make an arrest, your shift is now over because you're tied up for 3 hours. We didn't have that impediment. So we got to do high volume jobs, really dangerous stuff, multiple times a night. And as Mark let off, we talked about tragically Sergeant Leclerc lost his life. If you think about the fact that our unit did what it did for so long, and you have one, any loss of life is obviously tragic. But we worked at a high level very safely for a long period of time. I think that speaks volumes about the people that trained us, about the men and women we worked with, and about the way we took our, how serious we took our job. So
and that's like some of the people like Russ, Bissett, Joe Black, Shokoff, Pat Lawrence. These are people that trained us. We went in, completely novice to the profession, and then we all leave.
Remember too, a lot of the dudes were military, so they at least have that background. Where Mark and I were never military. I was an Eagle Scout. That's about it, right?
Man, I wasn't even that.
That's all I got for you. So I couldn't do a heck of a lot. So it was, it is really fun to learn from those guys that have been, even Sergeant Leclerc, right, was a sergeant in the Marines. A lot of these other guys who are officers in the Marines, they know what they're doing. They're in the military. So, we learn from them as well. And that's the beauty of this. You're always learning, always improving. And again, nothing personal. If you didn't get put in, my apologies. I could do 50 stories with everybody, honestly, even after only a few years. But imagine what it's like for the guys that put in decades.
So we beg you, please pick it up tomorrow. Like you said, paperback tomorrow. It comes out at midnight. We will post all the links. I'm going to start going on all the news stations that I've been on before, promoting it, pumping it out. And again, it's also we can film this pilot episode if somebody doesn't come in and offer to finance it all, which, hey, if you know somebody rich who wants to do that, tell them to holler at me. So
that'd be great. Then I can fix my deck with the money instead. That would be great.
And then I can get my refrigerator fixed, my dishwasher, my lawnmower. Like, what the fuck? My front door? This is crazy.
But anyway. I got 3 car accidents 3 weeks in a row, man. I think somebody's out to get me, dude. Yeah, Final Destination. They after me.
State Farm loves you. So, all right, brother. To everyone, appreciate it. T, we'll drop it at midnight.
All right, man. Thanks for your support, everyone. Take care.
All right. See you. Thank you.
Peace.